Don't put away your winter jackets. No, I'm not.
Good evening, everyone. This is the City of Evanston Planning and Development Committee meeting for Monday, May 23rd, 2011. We do have a quorum, and the first item on the agenda is the approval of the regular meeting minutes of May 9th, 2011.
Move approval. Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes for May 9th, 2011, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. On our items for consideration this evening, first we have P1, Ordinance 39-011, granting a special use for a resale establishment at 1610 Maple Street in the D3 Downtown Core Development District. Staff and the Zoning Board of Appeals recommend the adoption of Ordinance 39-0-11, granting a special use permit for the operation of a resale establishment with certain conditions at 1610 Maple Avenue. The proposed business meets all the special use standards as identified in the ZBA findings and complies with the general plan that designates this area as the central business district as identified in the staff report to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is up for introduction. Is there a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Any discussion or questions? The applicant is here. Yes, Alderman Rainey?
Yes, if the applicant's here, could the applicant... Hi.
Why don't you come up to the podium
Whatever.
and then introduce yourself and tell us where you live.
Hello, my name's Linda DeWine. I live in Northbrook, Illinois, and am looking to open the White Petal Consignment Resale Shop in Evanston, right on Maple Street.
Welcome, Ms. Dwine.
Thank you.
One of the things I was concerned about in reading through the ZBA information, and that is the requirement that you receive goods through the rear. Was that your understanding?
I'm very open to that.
Let me tell you why I'm concerned about that.
Sure.
All the other resale shops that I've been to, bringing a few items here and there, you go through the front, you know?
Okay.
I mean, and I don't know how the alderman feels about this, but I find that, and I'm really thinking about women, I really don't want to come through your back. My stuff is good. Now, if you've got big pieces of furniture,
Yes.
that would be more appropriate. But I think people bringing soft goods should not be made to go in the rear. I don't know what your situation is in front of your store.
Yeah, my feeling is that I would prefer to have access to both, specifically for the reason you said. If it's big, bulky furniture,
That
the
makes
rear
sense,
is
yeah.
helpful. I think to have it make more sense, I am right on the alleyway, and there's access into the back alley. One thing that I think is something I wouldn't say entirely problematic, but I'd hate to have somebody coming with a lot of clothing walking that way because the alley is broken up and it's muddy when it rains. So the door, there's a nice big driveway to get into the alley, and if you even just back up part way and come to the front door, you have maybe maybe about 8 feet, 10 feet to walk to the door. And either one would be easy to access without causing congestion.
Well, here's another issue that I thought about when I read that. I thought about bringing, let's say, 10 pieces or 20 pieces of clothing,
Right,
and you have to mark them.
yes.
So is the person going to leave their car in the alley? I mean, I don't know. I read that and I thought, these are people who've not frequented a resale shop.
Exactly.
And it just doesn't work like that.
I agree. I agree with you in that sense. I'd prefer to be able to have access to both. The walkway, as I say, like probably 10 feet to the door in the front, and there usually is adequate parking there because it's a 2-hour limit, and directly across the street for maybe a quarter of a block, there's 20-minute parking. So there's enough flow throughout the day that you can usually get a parking spot, and the only time it really seems beneficial is if you have a lot of larger merchandise, but nobody
right.
can stay in that alleyway too long. There's just too much traffic.
And what ward is this?
This is the fourth ward.
Fourth.
Ward. Alderman Wilson, do you understand what I'm talking about?
I do.
Women bringing clothing, it's just not going to work.
Right. I guess I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. Obviously, if you're bringing in something large like furniture, you don't want to be carrying it on the sidewalk, or large volumes of books or something. But perhaps if we could make an adjustment to the restriction, looking at our city attorneys who drafted the ordinance, to perhaps tweak that.
We could do it for our next meeting, because it's introduction, I think.
Right. I actually was going to be moving to suspend the rules on this. She's going to try to open this weekend.
No problem.
So. Is that doable?
Yeah, Alderman Wilson, what I can do is, if the appropriate motion is made, and I'm looking at the section here, we could certainly incorporate that into the final version as approved.
Can you direct me to the section so I can find it quickly in this pile of materials?
Well, it looks as if, Section 3 speaks to the conditions on the grant of the special use. So, subsection B speaks to hours of operation and delivery. So, I think what I'd want to do, you have to go from page to page. So, I have to marry up the restriction as currently expressed in the ZBA findings and then work that back into the ordinance. So if
I said, to me, it looks like it's drafted in such a way that it adopts the testimony and representations of the applicant to the ZBA, as
Right.
opposed to setting it forth. So to modify that, perhaps in Section A, we could say something like, all applicable legislation, testimony, and representations of the applicant to the ZBA, with the exception of the
Delivery of goods.
whatever it is. Yeah. Yes, Alderman Holmes.
I don't want to get this confused, but, and I'm referring only to Alderman Rainey because I think it happened with the last council. Didn't we have something about the deliveries out not being in the front of the stores? And I know it had something to do with,
Furniture.
was it just furniture? Because remember
Mattresses.
down on
Yes.
Main, South of Main, I don't want to call the name, but we had some issues down
Yes,
there.
yes.
And so there was purposely drafted to do that. I'm just asking.
Well, but I think this is what ZBA directed in this case. They went down. And I would think that soft goods such as clothing can come through the front, and hard goods such as furniture and those kinds of things go through the back. Another thing that I would suggest is that we include a restriction on displaying merchandise on the sidewalk.
Yeah, we have to.
Because
That
that
was
was
a
a big issue when we were
Right.
talking about that.
I think we have to
and
be
I
really
think
clear in terms of defining soft and hard goods, because sometimes
Clothing.
people, I know, I understand, but I think we have to really, if we're going to do this,
Yeah.
we're going to make a change, and we have to be real clear.
And I think from the perspective of concern of having anything on the sidewalk or leaning or that sort of item, my intent is to really take goods in by appointment at set hours or by appointment. So it would not be, you cannot just come and dump something off. And so.
But
if-
that's not really what I was talking about.
Okay.
Resale shops frequently get carried away and set up little rooms outside to display their merchandise.
No, the dogs have taken over that walkway.
Well, that's
Alderman Fisk, did you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. First of all, just as a reminder to staff, in Evanston Avenue. I'm sorry. Reminder to staff, in Evanston, avenues run north and south, streets east and west. We've got an avenue and a street in here. I share this alley with you, so welcome.
Oh, excellent, thank you.
This alley actually serves all of the businesses on Davis Street between Maple and the liquor store. So that's a half a block worth of businesses that accept deliveries in this it's actually a U-shaped alley, a larger alley that backs up to Little Mexican Cafe, and then the smaller alley, which is, I believe, the one you're referring to.
Yeah.
I actually don't know where your back entrance is.
It's directly across from where the garages are. There, when you say from the street of Maple, you have the first storefront is a shoe store
Right.
opposite me, and then there's a bit of a parkway that goes to Gigi's restaurant.
Right.
Then there's a whole set of about 4 garages
Right.
for tenants.
Right.
And I am just right across from the open way from where Gigi's is at.
Okay, so there's a door in that building?
Yes.
I had never noticed the door.
Yeah, there's a door right behind a big telephone or utility pole there.
Okay. I had asked my alderman about repaving that alley, since it is such a mess. And so I guess on behalf of both of us, I will repeat that request. We're required, actually, we've been instructed by the police not to accept deliveries on the street, but in the alley. And that's why it's real important to get that, have that alley be
Yeah.
maintained and open. The alley that we're speaking of is very narrow. It's probably,
Yeah.
a 14-foot wide alley, so it's not very big.
Yeah.
And also on Maple Avenue itself, the walkway over there is not as wide as it is on Davis Street. And the parkways are built up a little bit to accept plantings.
Right.
So it's going to be hard for you, I think, to actually accept goods through the front unless you're there and to accept them.
I would have to be there, and normally what would occur, there's Monday morning is a huge day for traffic for deliveries in and out of that alley. But on any other average day, you can actually just back part way where there's a off take really by the sidewalk. You don't even have to go all the way to the alley to walk to the front door. And so it's not really blocking the road or traffic. You can actually stop there, unload, and go in through the front easily.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
And then my next question is, where are you and your employees going to park your own private vehicles?
I have rented public garage space
Okay.
for employees.
Okay. And the last thing is that I guess I would request, like most of the special uses in the downtown, that this run with the owner and not with the land. It does, okay.
Okay.
I didn't notice that. Okay.
Okay, thank
Great.
you. Anything else?
Okay, well, I guess back to the delivery issue. What do you think is going to be most effective for the operation of your business?
To be able to have access to both, as I've had both furniture and objects delivered in the process of just setting up my own desk and office, sometimes the front is better if there's a lot of traffic for the other stores of delivery, and certainly as this lady just mentioned too, if it's a rainy, muddy day, you have trucks in and out of there all day long, and nobody wants to drop their stuff in the alley. So I'm suggesting to have access either place if it's acceptable.
Okay, is there a motion to amend the proposed ordinance to allow for the delivery of soft goods through the front?
I'd like to amend it.
So is there a second? Second. Okay, any further questions or discussion?
May I just ask, does that contain then that the furniture or hard things have to go through the back?
Correct.
Okay. And I just make note, though, that if I could have access to both, it would be great. The door is about 34 inches wide in the back frame and 36 in the front. So if, on occasion, you need those 2 inches, I just ask if there can be an allowance for either. But if it needs to be a restriction, I'm fine.
It would be hard to craft the ordinance that specifically, but I hopefully everybody will be understanding.
Understood. Don't want to change the works.
Extraneous circumstances, right?
Okay.
Okay. So with the with the motion as amended, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The matter proceeds to council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, P2, Ordinance 46-0-01, granting a special use permit for the planned development proposed at 1915 through 1919 Gray Avenue. The Plan Commission and City staff recommend the adoption of Ordinance 46-0-01, granting a special use permit for the planned development proposed at 1915 through 1919 Gray Avenue. This proposed development will stimulate neighborhood revitalization and provide 6 units of affordable housing, 4 units of new construction, and 2 rehabilitated units as part of the Neighborhood Stabilization Program 2, commonly known as the NSP2. The applicant requests to be permitted to exceed development allowances to build a 4-unit multifamily structure on the property and to allow the new residential building to stand 9 feet 4.5 inches from the existing residential structure. This will require a 2/3 vote from the council, but I understand that we do have a presentation from the staff on the matter. Is there a motion first? Yeah, anybody move to approve?
Move approval.
Second? Okay.
Yes, Dennis Moreno, Manager, Planning and Zoning.
Can we have the lights, please?
Oh, there you go.
You got it.
Todd Lieberman from Brinshore, who's our liaison on the NSP2 project, one of several staff from Brinshore working on the NSP2 project, is going to make a presentation with the assistance of 2 people who are working with him. So let me introduce Todd at this point.
Thank you, Dennis. Hello, good evening. My name is Todd Lieberman. I work for Brinshore Development. Brinshore is partnering with the City of Evanston to implement the city's neighborhood stabilization program. The city was fortunate enough to receive $18 million to acquire, renovate, and rent or sell 100 units of foreclosed and abandoned housing in 2 census tracts in the City of Evanston. What you see here today is one of the signature projects of the NSP2 the NSP2 effort, where we've acquired a property which was a foreclosed property where there were 2 vacant parcels next door. The parcels had been vacant for years, and the opportunity here is to build high-quality, affordable housing which will be of great benefit to the neighborhood and to the city as a whole. I'm here tonight with Nate Kipnis from Nathan Kipnis Architects and Steve Friedland from Applegate and Thornton Thompson. I'm going to talk just briefly about the general benefits of the project and why we think this is a great opportunity for the city. Nate's going to go into the details of the design, and Steve will talk about the zoning. This project here is an exceptional opportunity to use vacant land and create affordable housing in a way that you'll be providing both housing that is accessible. There'll be 2 units that are accessible on the first 2 floors, and units that are modern and will provide housing opportunities for people who are looking to live in Evanston. Now I'm going to turn it over to Nate Kipnis, who's going to talk about the design of the project.
Thank you very much. I'd like to just go over the site plan first and then get into the unit design. The location is on Gray, and it's bounded by, it's just north of Emerson. And basically there is an existing 2-story brick building to the north, and about 9 foot 4.5 inches clear between the buildings is the new building, a new 2-story 4-unit building. There are 2 parking spaces behind the existing building. There will be 5 parking spaces behind the new building. One of the features of the new building is to have entrances to each unit, and that's an important thing in affordable housing, is to have your own entrance. So, and I'll get into that more with the plan and the elevation. One of the things that was requested by a previous meeting we had with planning was to add a fence along the alley on the south, and that would be to keep kids or whatever separated from the alley traffic. So we've added a fence that goes from the southwest corner down to the alley and all the way back to the parking. Whoops. Oh, there we go. Great. This is the first floor, and as Todd had mentioned, they're accessible units. So the entry, wow, that's bright. Don't look Yeah. The entrance is on grade and comes in on the sides on each of them. This is a mirror of the upper unit. Coming into the living room, kitchen, and then there's a hallway here, handicap accessible entrance into the 2 bedrooms here, and then a handicap accessible bathroom and the master bedroom suite at the back. So 2 individual bathrooms, 3 bedroom. And this particular unit actually has storage under the stairs that are serving the upper floor. When we go up to the upper floor, there's an entrance, center entrance, and then it splits into each unit in a similar layout, except in this case, there is 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, and with some extra space, we actually get a study area in the hallway. There's a solar tube, which is a skylight system right there to give some light, and they have a deck off the back as well. On the roof are going to be 5 solar panels. Those will provide hot water, a significant portion of the hot water for the 4 units. There's a mechanical room up there. There isn't very much to service, but there's access up there as well. And for the facade, there wasn't really too much architectural unity in the neighborhood. But what we decided to do was to have a masonry building, a brick building, and have certain features that defined the entrances. There's also these piers that are out by the sidewalk to help denote the entrance to the side units. Center entry here, and then these are delineated, the left and right sides, to indicate individual buildings in a sense and get back to the rhythm of the street and not make one big building. There's masonry crenellations up on the top for detail, and there's an overhang at the front as well with the address. The rear is sided, that's with cement fiberboard siding, and you can see the decks there. This is actually in the distance. That's the mechanical penthouse and the solar panels. They're not going to be very visible. And the side elevations, we have brick going back to the front door on the alley side. So it's completely brick going back there. And you can see the deck in the back as well. These are some images of the existing building at 1919 Gray. And this is the lot next to that. This is the double lot that's vacant. So this is the one being rehabbed. And this is a view from Gray looking back. So that's the actual vacant property. And there's the alley. Looking back from the alley forward, a lot of room there. And here's the back of the existing building on Gray. These are some of the images of different buildings, different homes in the neighborhood. So they range from, gable fronts to hip roofs, 1-story to 2-story, masonry and siding. So again, there's a real wide range there. And some additional ones. This one at 1921 Gray has some of that crenellation detailing on it. And that concludes the design presentation. Thanks. That was perfect.
Good evening. My name is Steve Friedland with the law firm of Applegate Thorne Thompson. All I really wanted to speak to were the site development allowances. We, I think at the Plan Commission, we set the record with respect to why we believe we meet the various requirements for the special use in the PD, but just to talk through briefly the public benefits that we think we're providing in order to receive the site development allowances that are needed. And we think there are several. One is providing a variety of housing types, and we think we really accomplish that in 2 ways. There is both the entire building is affordable sort of workforce housing, which is important and necessary to the city. In addition, we've got the 2 accessible units on the first floor, so we really think we're providing that variety that's needed. We're also eliminating blighted structures. You've got the existing building, which was in foreclosure, and that's going to be rehabilitated as part of this, along with the new construction. And a third public benefit would be enhancing the local economy, strengthening the tax base. All of this housing, all of these, this property will be taxable, so that will add to Evanston tax base. You're going to take a currently vacant piece of land and put 4 units on it. I think that concludes our presentation. We certainly are available to answer any questions that the council might have.
Thank you very much. Alderman Fisk.
Thanks. Mr. Kipnis, could you tell me again what the siding is on the side of the building? What is that material, and how is it maintained?
The siding on the alley side and back side and the north side will be cement fiberboard siding. That's made from waste wood and cement. Has a 50-year lifetime, 15-year finish. We've been using it for about 12 years, and we've never had to resurface it. So
Right, okay.
it's a pretty durable product.
And then is there a basement to this building?
No.
Okay, so it's
This is
sitting
on grade.
sitting on a slab, okay.
Right.
And how many trees will have to be removed in the back, would you guess?
I think two, how many?
There are 2 trees.
2 trees, that's what I thought.
There's one on the side and one in the rear.
See if I can get back to that. Yeah. I think it's those 2.
Will there be a place to replant trees in the back, do you think?
We have landscaping.
Yeah, there is a landscape plan. It's not up here, but let me take a look at that. We are adding 3 trees on the alley side. I can show you this, and you can pass it along.
Sure.
We could hold that up here.
Alderman Holmes.
I just wanted to say that at the Plan Commission meeting, we did have neighbors there. I don't see anyone tonight, I don't think, from the neighborhood, from within 500 feet of the area, but who did come out and had some questions, and actually that's why we have, I think the fence was added to make sure that there was going to be that safety protection there. I've had good feedback from other neighbors so far. It is vacant space, and the foreclosure to have that rehabbed was a very, very positive thing in terms of the NSP2 project. So, but I'm sorry, Mr.
There was nobody on the
Green.
sign-up sheet, but is
But
there
he
anyone?
has his hand up. So
Did you want to speak? Please. Anyone else who wanted to speak as to this matter?
Oh, yeah, I've seen this. I've got that.
Rodney Green, living at 2016 Brown. I am within 500 feet of the property that you're talking about, but most of the people on Brown Avenue never received any notification. The only notification we got was about a fence. It did not talk about any other thing, when you were going to start the project, how it's going to be entailed, and any of that. So my question is, I think I heard you say that you notified the neighbors, but the neighbors on Brown Avenue did not get any notification. Could you answer to that, please?
I think, Mr. Marino.
Yes, the notification requirement is within 1,000 feet of the property for a planned development. The notification requirements were complied with, but certainly the applicant tonight can talk about their schedule as they go forward.
Wait, Dennis, excuse me. Mr. Chairman,
Alderman Rainey.
can I just follow up? Is Mr. Green within 1,000 feet?
I don't have a map. I would have to measure that, but certainly that notification was done. And we did get people at the Plan Commission off of that notification.
And it does happen from time to time. Somehow something gets lost.
It's mailing notification, is that right?
Correct.
Mail.
Yes, it was posted as well. Yeah.
A sign in front.
Yes, absolutely. We're in the neighborhood quite a bit, so that sign was definitely there.
Okay.
Right, if I remember correctly, I'm trying to think of the address. I believe the 1900 block of Brown. I believe one of the neighbors or maybe that was Emerson, who was at the meeting at the Plan Commission meeting. But I think it was Brown, 1900 block. So people in the area did, some of the people did get it.
Well, that's not the only form of notice either.
Oh, no, absolutely no. It was posted.
Right. And if you could maybe just share with us when you think you'll be starting the project.
Sure. The renovation is actually underway on 1919 Gray. It's an existing building, so we've begun abatement work, and that's actually well underway. The new construction will begin once we finish drawings, which will probably be this summer, and then we'll go in for permit. And we could start construction as early as the third or fourth quarter, depending on how the bidding process goes.
Thank you. All right. I see we have another member of the public. Ms. Esther, would you like to speak to this matter? You can identify yourself as well.
My name is Betty Esther, but I'm speaking on behalf of Madeline Dupree, who stays at 1923 Foster, and she thinks she's in the 1,000 feet. She did not receive a notice, but besides not receiving a notice of that, she wanted to know, one, why did you need a special permit to do this project? And why do you need 2/3 votes of the council? And what is the height of the building? Those 3 questions.
Yeah, height of the building is easiest.
So we're gonna look up the height and do that one first.
Right. From the materials, it's apparent that the ordinary parking requirements are not going to be met, as well as the distance to the adjacent building is also going to be deviating from the ordinary requirements.
Right. And the reason why we have decided to go with this plan is that it preserves the side yard so that there's more light and air on either side. They're very small lots that exist there right now. So if you're able to build a building that pushes the two structures together, so you go from two units to a 4-unit, you're able to preserve light and air, provide a better layout with more floor area for residents, and also provide for better accessible entrances. So this seemed like a good format. In addition, this format was used in other projects that Brinshore has done, and it provides both the entrance on the front for the second floor units and then individual entrances for the first floor units on the side. So it's a nice layout.
Also more energy efficient when they're combined like that. The height of the building is 24 foot 2 3/8, plus or minus.
And if I'm not mistaken, my recollection is that a special use for planned development does require 2/3 vote of the council. Is that simply pursuant to the city ordinance?
Yes, Alderman Wilson, you're correct. Pursuant to Section 6-3-6-6 of the zoning ordinance, as well as Council Rule 26, a 2/3 vote is required.
Thank you.
Yeah, excuse me. The other thing I would like to add is the applicant certainly has the right to use the planned development vehicle in order to achieve these development allowances if the council approves of those. It also enables them to have additional units to achieve the 6 units on this particular parcel. Any development, planned development is allowed in this district if it's over 10,000 square feet. The other thing we were clearly trying to achieve here is the revitalization of a very important neighborhood. This immediate neighborhood has had very, very little new construction in decades. And this is a rather efficient way to put in a very attractive 4-flat that in some ways, reminds one of 2 flats in some ways, the way it's done. But to have that critical mass on that block, and these properties are compatible with properties in the immediate block and also the east-west street to the north as well. So staff has worked closely with Brinshore to try and make this vehicle be a very effective one.
Alderman Nguyen, did you have a question?
Yes, I think I'd ask this of Mr. Farrar or Mr. Marino. Could you state clearly for the public what the notice requirements are, and so that everyone understands that there are 3 possible ways to achieve notice, and and my understanding is that, well, just go ahead and explain them. There's publication, there's sign, and then there's mailing.
Yes, Alderman Nguyen, I'm looking at section, Grand Forks Corporation Council, I'm looking at section 6-3-6-8, which speaks to review procedures for a plan development and a hearing regarding same. Subsection C requires the mailed notice, notice given by first class to all owners of property within 1,000 feet of the subject property. The subsection also speaks in the last sentence, the failure of delivery of such notice, however, shall not invalidate any such hearing regarding that. Subsection D speaks to recommendations following the public hearing. There's written findings which are embodied within the text of the ordinances before the committee tonight that speak to certain findings relative to the rationale for deviating from special use requirements. There's also a number of other additional requirements that are relatively voluminous, but subsection 6-3-6-8 and subsection 6-3-6-10 and section 6-3-6-11 also talk about rights of applicants. So those three sections read in tandem speak to the issues involved, Alderman Nguyen.
But, excuse me, Mr. Farrar, but in addition to mailing, two other forms of notice are publication and a sign, correct?
I'll defer to Mr. Marino on that. I'm just trying to pinpoint the sites in the code.
Yes, Alderman Nguyen, that's correct.
Okay.
So there are really three means.
So,
yes.
And the city employs all three means?
Yes, we do.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if all three, and the reason why we do all three, so that if one of them fails, the two others would still constitute notice.
That's certainly one way of looking at it. I mean, our goal is to let as many people as possible know that this is a pending matter.
Okay, and this property has been posted for the correct period of time?
Yes, it has.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Alderman Rainey?
Yes, I'm just wondering about the accessible units, and in which building are they? In the new building?
The new one.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the new building. They're the two units on the ground floor.
Are those stairs? No, it's
They come in on
ground level.
grade.
You just walk right in.
Right, and we have no basement. It's, yeah.
That's
let me,
site plan again.
I can't tell that from my picture here.
Yeah, if you look, the door is right on grade, and the floor plan is, so you come in right on grade, that's not a step, and then you're in the unit.
Can you point it out so she can see it?
I see where the entrance is, and there are two entrances.
Right, and then one on each side,
Yeah, and
you
then
just
they
walk around.
Right. Okay.
That's it, and
I
then
thought there were stairs.
that gets you in the unit.
There's no stairs.
There's also an exit out the back that's on
Right,
grade
right.
as well.
And then can you tell us how they're going to be occupied, either by renters or owners, the 6 different units?
There'll be rentals.
All 6 units will
Yes.
be rentals?
All right, do we have any further questions or discussion?
I have
Alderman Fisk?
Yeah, on the front facade, is that plantings above the canopy?
Something we're looking at, yes.
Because I can't see a way to maintain those.
We may not do that,
Okay.
but it's
It would
a
be
thought.
nice if-
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
thought, so we're looking at it. I mean, there's a way, once it's established, that it needs no maintenance, but we will look at that if it's possible to even get the established material up there.
Alderman Nguyen?
I'm sorry. I had to arrive late. Can you tell us what the square footage is of the units, roughly?
Yeah, it's net of about $1,270 per unit.
Okay, thank you.
Is that about right?
Okay, any further discussion?
Had another
Ms.
question.
Esther? did you-
He mentioned the parking was as one of the things that they wasn't going to meet while they needed a special permit. And then he said something else, and I didn't clearly hear him. And he went to small lots and talked about lights. So was it just the parking is why you needed the special permit, or was there something else?
No, there are a number of requested what are called site development allowances. One is parking. We're requesting that there be 7 parking spaces at the property. 2 for the existing building and 5 for the new building. And the second is density, to allow for 6 units to be developed instead of 5 units, which would be allowed on the site without site development allowances. And then last site development allowance is somewhat of a quirk of the code, but there is a requirement in a plan development that residential buildings not be closer than 12 feet from one another. And we are building the existing building within 9 feet, 4.5 inches from the existing building. So that's the third site development allowance that we're asking for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of granting the special use permit for the plan development, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The matter will move to the council. P3, thank you. P3, ordinance 53-0-11, amending various portions of the green building ordinance. Staff is recommending passage of ordinance 53-0-11, amending various portions of the green building ordinance, Title 5, Chapter 24 of the City of Evanston Code of 1979. This amendment provides for an appendix to address Evanston's sustainable building measures for new construction, which is part of an option for compliance with the city's goal of green building design for buildings 10,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet. And I think we have a report from the city staff.
Hi, yes, good evening. Catherine Hurley, Sustainable Programs Coordinator. I just made a few kind of comments and introductory remarks I thought would be helpful for your consideration.
Thank you.
As you may remember, on February 28th, the City Council adopted Ordinance 17-011, which codified and amended our green building ordinance, which was formerly known as 1409. As part of this amendment, the ordinance was modified to create some flexibility for developments that fell within the 10,000 to 20,000 square feet in size, allowing those projects to either meet LEED Silver or to meet a minimum of 15 sustainable building measures from our existing list. Now, as you may remember, the existing list was originally designed for interior renovations, and at our meeting on February 28th, City Council acknowledged that it would behoove us to create a sustainable building measure list that was customized for new construction. So Director Steve Griffin and I moved forward in the last few months with the development of an Evanston Sustainable Building Measures for New Construction list. It also has an acronym that's pretty long. We've held 2 meetings with citizens representing the Environment Board, Citizens Greener Evanston, and our previous Green Building Ordinance Committee in order to engage them, their expertise, and continue along the process with them. Now, our goal for creating the building efficiency list for new construction was to select elements which would be straightforward for the developer to follow, easy for the city to verify and enforce, and also to provide flexibility for any type of project that would be in this square footage size. So the recommended Evanston Sustainable Building Measures for New Construction list has 35 items that are worth anywhere from 1 to 3 measures. Obviously, items that are a little harder or more complex or that the city would like to encourage further are worth more than 1 measure. We believe that this list will help our projects to be more efficient with resources and help meet our sustainability goals without scaring away potential projects. Now, the most difficult part of this process has been the selection of the number of measures to acquire, as you might imagine. The intention is that we want projects to be more efficient, use less natural resources, and to help make our community more sustainable, but we also did not want to have the number of requirements be too high that projects would select to develop elsewhere, because that's where we ended up on this path in the first place. So to help frame our discussions, we did picture some hypothetical projects. The 2 that kept coming to mind were sort of a small strip development where you might have a coffee shop like a Starbucks, as well as we kept thinking of sort of the car dealership or some other building where the square footage of the building wasn't very large, but there might be some outside other elements where you'd have to deal with a permeable and impermeable surface issue. So at the end of the second meeting, we had originally settled on the requirement of 8 points. But of course, at the 11th hour of putting everything together, there were some last-minute back-and-forth discussions. And so in an effort for us to come to some kind of further compromise, I had recommended 7 points. But the original recommendation of the committee was 8 points. So what the ordinance currently says, and I'll walk you through it in a minute, is 7 points, but I'm really wanted to let everyone know that we need to amend that per the meeting to 8 points. The other key thing is that we did go ahead and also want to require that points or measures be selected out of 5 of the 8 categories at a minimum to make sure that we didn't get everyone selecting points from one category. So just to kind of recap, if you go to the memo and then the page 368, which is where we have the recommended amendments. As you remember, last time we codified this green building ordinance. Now it's part of our main code. So we've selected the main components to be revised and did additions on that. The first important thing is we did define our new list, the Evanston Sustainable Building Measures for New Construction, the ESBMNC. So anytime we're talking about new construction, it's the NC list. And then, as you can see later down on the page, item number C under new construction and addition requirements, we revised it. Instead of referring to our old interior renovation list, now we're referring to the new construction list. And again, this only impacts projects that are between 10,000 and 20,000 square feet. And then, as you can see, starting on page 369, we have the list of our new measures for new construction, and we've added some additional categories to make sure that we can account for things that in an interior renovation project you wouldn't have outside elements, but for a new construction project you would. So as I said, if you counted every dot, which we consider to be a measure, there should be about 35. But if you read closer, some of these measures are worth more than 1 point for ones that are harder to achieve. So as we had stated back in our meeting in February, we would come forward when we had a updated list for new construction, and I wanted to present that all for your consideration tonight.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the committee?
Well, I think it was a wonderful and really responsible and flexible response to some of the issues that were raised.
Thank you.
I, for one, really appreciate it.
I should ask if there's a motion for approval.
I would move approval of the changes.
Is there a second? Okay. Any further questions or discussion?
I mean, this is a tremendous amount of work, and I don't know how many people from the various committees worked on this.
A lot.
But I was at the first meeting, and it was a very large group. And to bring everybody together to come up with this, I think was extremely positive thing.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort that's gone into this.
Thank you, and staff really appreciates the participation of the community members, especially since we know that they're voluntary and they have day jobs, and I'm trying to communicate with them when I'm in my job, and so we appreciate all coming together and putting this together. So we'll make a few adjustments and then bring it back.
Thank you.
And I think it'll have a very positive effect on people bringing us projects. Not that the other would have, turned away everybody, but there were some who would not have been able to meet. And I think this is, I don't even feel like it's a compromise. I think it's just a better product. So thank you.
And just to clarify, you mentioned the adjustments. Are we okay moving this through to the council for introduction, or do you feel like we need to hold this in the committee for any
Well,
significant
the main item is that we want it to be 8 minimum measures. And then I think I did notice one reference to the old list that needs to be the new list. So there were, I guess, 2 small items.
Okay. Right. So perhaps we could have a motion to modify that item from 7 to 8 and to correct your typo. Yeah. Would there be such a motion?
I move that we correct the 7 to 8 and correct the typo. Maybe we could just get a little note as to where the typo is.
Okay.
Sure.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. And all those in favor of the ordinance as amended, say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Alderman?
Yes.
Just for the viewing public, there have been no changes for those projects in excess of 20,000. Is that correct?
Right. Thank you. Do we have any communications or other items for discussion?
No, we do not, sir.
Is there a motion for adjournment? All right, we will reconvene in a few moments for the commencement of the council meeting.
Oh, yes, she would. Oh, yes, she would.
Signing it.
Yes, I did. Actually, I did worry about it. It sounds like it could make it worse, but not halfway through. Well, it was snarky from the start, so I think that. Yeah, I'll ask a question. It's good video.